bunch of misfits I ever said either.
Good morning, Misfits. You are tuning into another episode of the Misfit podcast. On today's episode, we got a bit of a Misfit freestyle episode. We're going to talk a little bit about the never-ending changes to the CrossFit Games season. Quarterfinals are back. Are they actually back? What do they do? We have some leftover questions from the Q&A that I thought were just good general topics. So who knows once we get there whether we will answer specific questions or open them up into broader topics. But there's a few in there that I think serve as really good topics that can help a multitude of people and not just the person asking the question. Before we do that, as always, got a little bit of housekeeping, live chat, and then we will dive into it. If you are looking for our affiliate programming, you can head to teammisfit.com, click on the sign up now button. You get a 2-week free trial to StreamFit, SugarWOD, or Push Press. Our individual programs, as always, click the link in bio on Instagram and you can get signed up on Fitter or Strivey. Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff coming up, but it's probably a little bit early, so we'll hold off. Live chat. Hunter, what's up?
I suck at golf. I'm going to fucking kill myself. God damn it.
So
and the
you
US
were on
does
the
too.
Ryder Cup team.
I have literally was at the Ryder Cup
Osmosis.
playing at the same level as every other American and American fan, apparently. No, yeah, that's my live chat. It wasn't that bad. I'm just so sick of like 2 golf shots ruining an entire 9.
Yeah.
Just like you asked me about it last week and like I was like, there's no one single part of the game that's bad. I would say the one that gets you in trouble is just like or gets me in trouble is the one-off really poor shot that results in either a lost ball, having to take a drop, putting it into a hazard, something like that, or off the tee doing the same thing. And none such especially is like as short of a course as it is, where length isn't an issue. There's just like, there's just fucking woods everywhere. And it's just like so punitive to, punch something into the woods. And it's just so easy to let a score get away from you. Going from shooting 2 over on the front to like 9 over on the back is enough to make me want to jump into like
the non-slush river
southbound traffic, which half the time is at a standstill. So it wouldn't even fucking work.
Sure. Yeah,
losing all the way around. But yeah, so that's live chat for now.
I'll flip the order this week. Operation No Dad Bod is going great and terrible simultaneously. I've done a dozen CrossFit workouts in less than 3 weeks, somewhere in that range. And if you know me, you know that that's a lot of them. I actually don't think that these things are correlated. They might be, but I am also dealing with doing some home improvement projects and my back is torched. Not like, oh, it's sore because I did a bunch of work. Like, my discs are not inside of the area they're supposed to be and sending neurological and back spasms left and right. But like right now, I'm not going to stop, but right now I would say I can probably go out there and do push-ups, echo bike, strict pull-ups, ring dips, maybe a walking lunge. My movement tracker is short.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let it like stop me from going back out there, but I'm not going to be able to be very creative. So basically what I do in these moments is just try to match time domain and stimulus of what's on the board. That's really kind of the only thing that I can do, because that doesn't allow me to go out there and say like, oh, I'm just going to do like this many push-ups, this many pull-ups, and like flush on the bike, like that kind of thing.
Do you, can you jump? Can you still box jump?
Well,
no.
I did my
an
first
actual box jump, not a CrossFit box
RX workout. I did an entire RX class on Friday. I did the lift and I did the workout. The workout was the push press box jump. I worked into it pretty well, but especially during warm-ups, the amount of core bracing that I had to do to jump on the box was like, I think my body was like, hey, if we go from compression to extension in your spine, you might slip another bad boy out of there, so why don't we not do that? But I did it. I will say though, like in that kind of workout, it was kind of funny to think back after on it. My only chance of getting up near, and I don't have any business being up near the top of a leaderboard, basically any leaderboard, but I would have had to scale the box jumps down to 20 inches. It was like, towards the end of that workout, it was like I would finish my push press and walk over and do that single box jump, and then I was allowed to rest on top of the box.
Nice.
So like it got gassy to the point where it's like I really don't think, like I don't even think lowering the weight would really do anything. Yesterday you had us doing burpee broad jumps in our warm up, and my body just hates that moment of, again, like just standing and gravity is some level of compression on your spine, and then jumping is extension. And when I hurt my back for the first time, it was basically compression, extension, compression, or you could call it traction, I guess, sort of, instead of extension. But I did like a cliff drop on a snowboard, and you just have that moment where you get really elongated because you're in the air, and then you land, and it felt very weird. Like I definitely had some kind of weird tingling down in my legs and like my hips, but I didn't actually get injured there. Like a week later, I went up for a rebound in a pickup basketball game, and my discs just like jumped out. And that was the first time that I hurt my back like really bad, and it's kind of honestly been a battle ever since. And I've learned a little bit more about it. You essentially have this like mesh lining around your spine, and if that wears down, that's what's like holding the discs in place, not just the fact that they're compressed between actual bone. And if that gets broken up, you know, through essentially, I would assume, not having proper bracing around your spine and going into, you know, intense modes of flexion and extension. So yesterday with the burpee broad jumps, like it was like I had to squeeze like I was trying to back squat 500 pounds and I could jump about a foot. Okay. I was like, this ain't it. So jumping is a no. And I don't know, some of this stuff is hard because like part of it's just feedback from your body, and like, is your body saying like, you literally can't do this because you're injured, or you can't do this because we don't want you to because it's going to injure you. Like when it is disc, nerve, spine stuff, that feedback can be confusing. It's not the same as like a cut on your arm or a bruise where it's just obvious what's happening, that kind of thing. So
it's all just self-preservation.
So I'm working on it, and I'm not going to stop exercising, but my movement tracker's real.
Have you tried... I feel like every time we talk about your back, I just start to throw ideas out there, most of which you've tried. Is the like, I can't remember what the machine is called, but it's like it's the squat, like it's like a belt squat or something like that, where the weight hangs, like you attach it to your hips and the weight hangs below you.
I've done the horizontal version at a chiropractor where they put the diaper on you and they pull basically.
Yeah.
But like your back is on basically just like a table, and then the machine pulls you, and like you're not supposed to let your torso slide because the tension is what's pulling and creating that. Like, so it'd be the same thing, you're just turned 90 degrees, same kind of deal. And I don't know, the issue is there are interventions that can help with in the moment, like, oh, I go get an adjustment and like my back feels better for like 45 minutes or whatever. There are things that help relieve, and they're not like a solution to the problem.
To be clear, I mean like as a training, like
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
like
not
the belt
like
squat
not like a traction thing. Like I mean literally like a squat, like a belt squat. I'm thinking like
I've never had
like
access
lower
to a machine or to one of the rig things. So whenever I tried it back in the day, you like hurt your back enough, like you got fucking kettlebells swinging between your legs and you're jumping up, you're getting up onto a box, and like that's harder than the squat itself.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about farmer's carries. It's like, or a heavy dumbbell bench press. I'm like, I can't even pick these things up. I can bench them. But So that's the update there. Your weekly sports update. The Steelers tried very hard to lose to the Vikings after kicking their ass for the entire game, just being morons at the end of it. But they did win. The Vikings are good. One of the best regular season teams for a while. But I don't know, you probably won't have context for this, but Carson Wentz was their quarterback.
I actually know that name. Is he a Jet at some point?
He was, let me see if I can get this right. He was an Eagle, a Commander, a Colt, a Chief,
one of those,
and now a Viking. Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
He's the one who lost his job through injury to Nick Foles, and Nick Foles won the Super Bowl. And then they gave him his job back the next year, even though Foles was the one who won the Super Bowl, and he sucked. Anyways, so, I mean, the Steelers are 3-1. I can't complain. They win games. They'll find a way to lose a game to a team that's not very good at some point, or maybe I'll change my tune. And more excitingly, the Red Sox and Yankees are playing a 3-game playoff series starting tonight. This is like some old school shit.
Oh, shit, actually.
Yep. And sort of like CrossFit, they like to change their rules. So the latest iteration is the 2 wildcard teams that play each other. All 3 games are at the higher seed. So all 3 games are in Yankee Stadium. Yeah.
So
because before
Yankees
that extra team wasn't in at all. So like
is a
they're
wild
basically
card
saying,
for a divisional thing or the conference
so
wide?
the Blue Jays won the division, and the lowest wild card team, I believe, plays one of the division winners, and then the other 2 division winners get a bye. So there's 2 wild card round series, I believe, and then 2 teams have a bye, and that's like how it like funnels into it, basically. But the Red Sox are like, they're not great, but they're like a fun young team, and they seem to have that edge and like camaraderie, like that kind of thing. They seem to like, I don't know, like each other, and there's like some kind of like vibe there. And the Yankees seem to be like a very fragile franchise because they still spend an absurd amount of money and almost always have a few of the best players in the entire game, and they can't like do anything with it.
Sounds like U.S.
So
Ryder
what
Cup.
So what I'm hoping is it's 2 of the best pitchers in all of baseball are pitching against each other tonight. And I'm just hoping if you find like, if they get their foot in the door and the Yankees and their fans and everyone's like, here we fucking go again, I think they have a chance. But like, if they lose tonight, the idea of winning 2 in a row in Yankee Stadium,
That's tough.
They're not supposed to win, and it'll be fun. So I'll take it.
Yeah, that's great. I've been served a bunch. I think I talked to you about this once, maybe on the podcast, about I've been served a whole bunch of like pitching, like camp type stuff, like academies where dudes, high school, collegiate prospects, even pro prospects will go to like, it's a pitching camp. So I don't know what exactly it all entails, but watching like the coaching, because they're like, they've got the coaches like working with them on every pitch and trying to like adopt some sort of change to what they're doing, whether they're trying to learn a new pitch or, focusing on something. But it is crazy the nuance that there is to pitching at a high level. It's like, I think the pitch like in baseball is the equivalent of like the golf swing, where it's just like,
and that's new
so
too, by the way.
There's
a lot of the stuff that they're talking about is very new, just in the realm of like there are pitchers who were supposed to be really good and then couldn't figure it out at the MLB level, and in years past a lot of them would just sort of be cast away, and now they have data on like hit rate, spin rate, like what literally like tracking how the ball spins and whether that's an elite pitch, and if it's not, don't fucking throw it to these guys, like that kind of thing. So they'll literally now remove 1 or 2 pitches from an arsenal, and a guy just shoots rockets, like his stats get way better. So the data on all that stuff is actually kind of new. Which is
that's
crazy.
Funny. They talked a lot about that. I've been watching that because they'll use like TrackMan to like actually.
What are you watching? What did you say this is? Like, what's it from?
It just YouTube Shorts.
Okay,
it's the same
gotcha.
group. I'll try to remember what it is, or find it and look up what it is. But it's basically they're just, you can just hear the coaches talking to them. Like it's usually like split screen with like the TrackMan data, which if you don't know is just like a ball, basically tracks the movement of the ball, the spin, all that sort of stuff. The golfers use the same thing, but it's crazy too. And that it's funny, the like similar sort of tangent, how you're talking about like how stat and data heavy it is. It was the same thing over the weekend at the Ryder Cup. They were talking about it at the end of the season, basically, or end of the weekend, like how well Europe did as far as like just using like stats and shit like that, and how terrible the US did when they paired up like Colin Morikawa and Harry English, and like basically there was a website, the video I'm thinking of, they were talking about, it's some like open source like golfstats.com or something like that, and they evaluated they ranked basically like all of the possible combinations and pairings of golfers in like the foursomes and like the alternate shot and shit like that, and the US like paired Harry English and Colin Morikawa, which was like the 102nd out of 136 combinations. Like it was like the fourth worst ranked decision for the entire weekend, and they like did it two mornings in a row, and who would have thought they got fucking annihilated. You know, the end score was a little bit closer. It was like the US never fucking had
that stuff's fun too, because it's like the old versus the new in a lot of ways. There are like the people that like consider themselves old school and they hang their hat on it. Yeah. And you better be real fucking good if you want to hang your hat on that stuff, because there's still like even some of the commentators in football, because like it's very the data now is why teams go for it on fourth down, why they go for two fairly often, why like there was one thing towards the end of a game not too long ago where the kick returner was literally catching the ball towards the end of the game and then looking at his head coach like all the way across the sideline, and his coach is like, get out of the end zone, because he wanted him to run time off of the clock. So even though the touchback gets them all the way to the 35 now, he was like, it's the data tells us that you running it out and taking 10, 12 seconds off the clock is actually more beneficial to us. Yeah. Like that kind of thing. So it's just crazy how this stuff pops up. But the commentators, some of them are like, I don't agree with this decision. And it's like, yeah, that's what's awesome about math. like your risk tolerance comes into play. That's obviously there. But like more often than not, if this situation is more advantageous to you winning, like even though it goes against conventional wisdom, like some of them are tough to watch as a fan because you're so used to like, give me the 3 points. And they're like, well, it's turning a 2-score game into a 2-score game, so who cares? And it's just like little things like that where some of the younger coaches do it, and they're like, ooh, look at this young hot shot. And they're like, well, actually, no, I just have a nerd in my ear telling me the exact statistics on this. Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, it begs the question about, because Keegan Bradley, when he got interviewed, one of the reporters was like, this was a terrible pairing. Why are you doing it again? Effectively, it was like statistically like the wrong pairing at the wrong, like there's nothing correct about this. And he's like, well, we got a plan and we're going to stick to it. It's like, okay, I guess like, you know more than I do, but like, it kind of just begs the question, when like does somebody's job become obsolete eventually because of just like, no, we're just going to do, it's just the computer's now the coach. It's like, make this decision. It's like,
well, the unicorn is the person who uses that and brings people together and does the right, rah-rah, like all of that. It's those things combined. And unfortunately, a lot of times the like really good like glue guy kind of coach. Yeah, so a lot of times your like traditional like coach that's good at bringing people together and, giving the right speech and whatnot is also the old school guy who doesn't want to do that. All right, so we are going to talk about the return of quarterfinals, and I did, Hunter, get clarification on something
just now
in real time.
Wow.
But we're going to run this for entertainment purposes like I had originally planned. So we're going to listen to Castro talk about the changes to the season, because there are some kind of nuggets in there. All right, we're going to pause there for 1 second. So I appreciate him taking responsibility for this lapse in judgment. You know what I mean? Like, because that's not necessarily, I think, been his strong suit in the past. But at the same time, it's more of the same, because it's like, why did you think that people would want that? Just feels like a kind of a tone deaf, like cooking. It's like the kind of thing that would happen in like an echo chamber where you're not actually thinking about and taking into account the history of everything, because the magic of the old school days was Billy and Jenny from your class could literally try to qualify for regionals, and that was the craziest shit ever, right? Like we could be on the path to being a professional athlete. And like, I don't know that a lot of the iterations have tried to capture that. And I think that's what creates the size of the sport, right? Because there's two different things. There's your professional athletes, and all of these iterations, I honestly, that they've had, I think are fine for the top, you know what I mean? The tip of the spear. And then, you know, as it dovetails out a little bit. But where you get all of those people from and the people to like pay I know my camera turned off. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. We'll figure that out. I'll keep talking. The people that are going to pay for the thing need the carrot dangled in front of them, right?
Yeah.
That has just always been so obvious to me, and I don't understand why some of these like one-off things, I don't know. It just doesn't, it's never made any sense to me. I don't get it.
I mean, I think your point about the regionals thing being like, oh, a gym member could qualify for regionals, like I just think we're like so far past that being like a thing. I think that was just the nature of a new sport in which like it's honestly like I actually thought about this as a lot of our members were doing High Rocks. Like High Rocks is in that stage right now where everybody can participate, and it's like you could even be a moderately decent CrossFitter and perform well. But like if High Rocks continues to be a thing for the next handful of years to come, it will progressively become less inclusive and go in a similar direction as semifinals and regionals, where it's like you actually need to be of a high enough caliber in order to compete in these events, unless they just continue to do open, like straight up open registration to compete. But like the fact is that like the level of competition is so far exceeded what somebody at an affiliate who's reasonably athletic can do just on a whim on a weekend in, you know, March or February or March. I do think, which kind of just popped in my head, an alternative could be, and this kind of goes to maybe what we were talking about right before the podcast, is quarterfinals, like, does quarterfinals become the affiliate CrossFit games where it's like, hey, you have to do the open, you are in the top X%, and then you get to compete in online quarterfinals, and at the end of online quarterfinals, like, we crown the fittest, like, affiliate athlete on earth or something like that. And then semifinals, like, a semifinals path is reserved for, like, you know, competing at the CrossFit Games are, like, the fittest on earth as opposed to the fittest affiliate athlete, you know, on earth. And it's like, there has to be, I think that once the sport got out of reach of the somewhat average everyday person, that kind of chasm, like, there's no going back from that. It's like, okay, I don't, like, unless I turn into a professional athlete, I have no chance to qualify for semifinals. And like that just became a really big divide, which I don't think was like, I don't think CrossFit helped themselves throughout like all the changes and shit that they made, but I do think it was a natural evolution of a sport that just went from like being a recreational thing for former athletes to like still be competitive to now it's like, nope, now you actually need to treat it like a sport.
And what I mean is not that can still happen. What I mean is using that as an opportunity to understand like behavioral economics. So there is a version of that person that still exists. We've sent 3 people from the Hatchet program to semifinals in the last 3 years. And those are typically people that have a full-time job. And what happens is the degrees of separation that you get from those people to yourself are what makes this thing possible to me. So you go to the gym with so-and-so that qualifies or is a fringe athlete, and there's one person that's 10, 20, 30%, you know, worse than that person, for lack of a better term, like, then you are 10, 20, 30%. Like, you can understand the realm of their capacity, not like if someone who won the CrossFit Games was in your gym. It would make what they're doing would make absolutely no sense. And again, not just how good they are, but the idea of like a bit of like a community and a culture thing, where if you have a huge gym and you have people that slot in at sort of each level there, I think you're just going to get more people to sign up. because like, oh, they're signing up, I'm going to sign up, I'm at least close to them, I might be able to take them in one workout, that sort of thing. So I think it just like, if you make it seem like this is only actually in practice for the best of the best, you're going to lose a lot of people. Because like with any other political thing, like honestly, you're probably going to create kind of a 50-50 sort of situation. Roughly half of the people that they lost last year were actually probably lost due to this. Because like, oh, I'm just going to sign up. Like, why am I going to give you my $20? That sort of thing. And whether that's correct or not is a totally different thing. But it's like you kind of have to do what the customer behavior tells you about.
Well, what's the argument for throwing $50 and signing up for quarterfinals, knowing that you're not going anywhere beyond that?
You're special. It wasn't an open sign up. You were.
Well, I mean, I could have done that for. I mean, why didn't that person do it last year?
25%. What do you mean? That didn't exist. There was no. You couldn't sign up. You were done unless you were the top 1%.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, we'll get to that part. There's a new version of that.
Online, you couldn't pay to participate. You had to qualify. Online, like online
top 1%. Yeah, top 1% in the world qualified for that.
Mixing up years of rules.
How could you?
All
right. So to stick on quarterfinals first, the top 25% of people from the Open advance to quarterfinals. And then the way that they're combining last year's system with this year's system is essentially that 1% from the Open last year that got you to the online semifinal is now the top 2,000 people from quarterfinals are eligible to compete at a semifinal. Where I was very confused during the rollout of all of this was at some point a week or two after they announced quarterfinals were back, I was really excited. They were like, you still need to qualify for these semifinals. So if you are going to Syndicate Crown, maybe they have an online qualifier and you have to do that to qualify. But it sounds like you are not eligible to qualify unless you came in the top 2,000 in quarterfinals. Get out, get some yarn and some tacks.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess that last part answered my question. Because you just alluded to the idea that I could qualify for, say, Syndicate Crown, for example, by doing their online qualifier.
Yes.
So does that mean that I could theoretically not do the Open, therefore not qualify for quarters? I could just qualify for the Syndicate Crown qualifier?
That is the confusion that they created, I believe.
Go to the games without ever having to done the Open or quarters?
No, you are not eligible to qualify for the CrossFit Games via semifinals unless you are in the top 2,000 in quarterfinals. So essentially they've moved that thing, that semifinals, like, okay, this is a quote-unquote semifinals level athlete. This is top 2,000 in the world in quarterfinals. We get to beef up the programming a little bit. And my concern was that they moved the Community Cup back into March and called it quarterfinals. But turns out that's not the case. Essentially, what I want for people, what I want for our athletes, why we would peak for quarterfinals is we get a very intimate look at where we stack up relative to what our goals are. Am I in that top 2,000? Do I even get a chance to go qualify? Am I in 4,000th, 3,000th? And then I go and try and figure out what is my weakness. Do I need to get stronger? Do I need to get fitter? Do I not have the skills? Is it pulling gymnastics? Is it pressing gymnastics? Is it my snatches? Is it my clean? Whatever, any of these things. That information is so invaluable to the trajectory of an athlete that's either just getting started or has that lifetime goal of competing at a semifinal, something of that nature. And to me, again, that is a little bit of dangling the carrot and just saying, hey, like this is actually an online competition that matters. Now, for the absolute best in the world, how hard do they have to try to be the top 2,000? I don't think they have to try that hard, but with how fit they are year round now, they're still going to kick everyone's ass. It's not going to matter. So I think it will still be fairly accurate data, because if you are in 1900th or 2100th, you don't care if the top 30 shuffle. It doesn't have any effect on you, really.
Yeah.
So you're still going to get the data that you want. And that's what I was hoping for. And that just sort of brings us all the way back around to what my original take on this was. I think even though it's annoying to change again, the growth of that team to be able to say, like, this clearly wasn't the right decision to go in this direction, and to actually go in and make that change. And there's some other changes that I think are really cool. I think it's awesome that teams or age group and teams get opportunities to compete in person. So like there will be sort of like last year, like there will be masters competitions where you get a berth that takes you to the CrossFit Games. Yeah. And like they just don't get opportunities to do that as often with the stakes being as high. So I think that's pretty cool. So I would say after more investigation, and thank you to Brian from Barbell Spin for clarifying that top 2000 thing. I can't see a reason why this isn't a positive thing and the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, like gives everybody the chance. It's kind of sucks if you're an elite athlete to need to do the open, quarterfinals, online semifinals, the games. But I mean, I guess that's how it's always been.
So you don't have to do online semifinals. That is now essentially last chance qualifier. Or then qualify for. So right. I still like if I'm number one after quarterfinals, I still need to qualify for a semifinal. I still need to do an additional qualifier. I don't just automatically get slotted into a semifinal, correct? Correct, but also maybe not. So here's an example. The event organizers get to make a lot of these decisions. And things that they can do is they can, geofence the situation like they did last year. Syndicate Crown, I believe, can say east of the Mississippi and your quarterfinal scores, that is our leaderboard. That's how you qualify. Yeah. Like they can still do that. And I don't know if they're going to. I don't know if CrossFit wants them to. Because like last year, I think NorCal or TFX, one of those, TFX was the like western side of the country. It's basically just like old school east and west. So I think that they're still going to be allowed to use those as the qualifiers. And I think that would be best case scenario for the buy-in for quarterfinals would be a lot of them saying like, this is a quarterfinals ranking system. But if you are open to everyone, I think you got to do an online qualifier. And then I think if you are in it for the dough, you got to do an online qualifier. Like the amount of people that are going to try to qualify for that are probably in the magnitude of the, sort of the 2,000 people that are there and potentially beyond. Because no offense, there are some delusional characters out there that think that they're going to go to a semifinal that are not in the top 2,000. So essentially you are skipping online semifinals and replacing it with quarterfinals for a lot of the athletes. Not all of them did online. Like Alex Gazan didn't do online semifinals. She just decided to put all her eggs in the basket of the in-person one. So like that is a thing. Now, what is frustrating for a coach, give you my perspective from dealing with this from coach's point of view, is we don't know when the semifinals are. We don't know how many of them there are. We don't know how you qualify. We don't know how many total people qualify from all of them. We don't know how many spots they're leaving for the online. And while they probably don't know either, they do know to a certain extent. So that part of it's frustrating because like there could be a qualifier that's going on that's been announced that is literally a qualifier for semifinals, and we don't know that that's the case. And it's like not a good situation. And you can make the argument if you want that like if your athlete is in the top 10 in the world, they're going to be fine. And it's like, okay, so this system is okay for 10 people. That's sick. You know what I mean? So that part of it is like, I want to be able to give my athletes the peace of mind. This is when we're peaking. This is what our schedule is. This is our backup plan. If this event doesn't go the way that it should, this athlete's better at online competition. This athlete's better at in-person, that kind of things. That part of it is still frustrating, but from a community-wide perspective we've got dozens of people on our pro program and hundreds of people on our hatchet program. Like this is for the community. This is good news. And I think the kind of thing that people should kind of rally around. And there's one more thing that I would say about it, but I'm actually going to save it for one of the questions here. Anything else on that? Cool. All right. So we're going to get into now some questions that were left over. And it's not necessarily that I wanted to do another Q&A episode, but I thought that some of the questions would be helpful for people in their training. So we'll jump right in. I have a specific workout where I see the biggest difference in my scores compared to some of the other girls. Spiders on Mars. Do you mind pulling that up, Hunter? Be from phase 0. Spiders on Mars seem to be an example where I fall behind the other girls I normally compare my scores with, or similar workouts. It doesn't seem to be a movement thing per se. I'm going to put an asterisk on this sentence. It doesn't seem to be a movement thing per se, because in a shorter time domain or a sprint situation with the same movements, I think I would put up a competitive score. Basically, it seems like I was 45 seconds to a minute 10 behind their paces, but some of the longer aerobic tests, like the 40-minute road test, I do fine with. And she goes into a little bit about why she thinks that this would be the case, but I don't necessarily think that we need to read that for our own personal context. So for a new listener, Hunter, did you find it?
Yep.
What is
Camera
the
up.
hatchet version of Spiders on Mars?
Hatchet. Standby. Hatchet version. Wrap 25 minutes. 50, that's 50 burpee box jump overs, standard height 2420, 75/65 calorie row, 100 wall balls, standard weight 10/9 feet, 75/65 calorie row, 200 double unders, and then max calorie row in the remaining whatever time you have left in that 25-minute clock. So 50 burpee box jump overs, 75/65 cal row, 100 wall balls, 75/65 cal row, 200 dubs, max calorie row.
So I come to you, Hunter, you're my new remote coach, and I say, I don't understand. My 40-minute row test is just as good as everybody else's. And stuff like this, when it's more of a sprinty variation, I'm good at those movements. Why am I a minute behind all of these people in this test? What would you say?
I mean, first is like, do you have a video? Okay. You've got a video. No, I don't. The answer is, well, how long did the first 50 burpee box jump overs take you? And maybe a good question is, how many did you do in the first 2 minutes? Something along those lines. So leading the athlete down the track of like, you're good at these movements. You're clearly proficient with a machine when you have a monitor directly in front of your face to say, like, I can hang with the best here. Is it a movement thing? Maybe, maybe not. More likely is you don't actually know how to pace movements that don't show you a screen right in front of your face. How long did those first 50 burpee box? Basically, I'd like to see kind of like the workout split, your split times. How long the first 50 take, how long the first 25 take you, how long the second 25 take you, what was your row pace, how'd you do your wall balls, double under. Basically, like, let's break this thing down, in 5-minute chunks, movement by movement, that sort of thing, and, try to determine if, where the discrepancy is. Again, kind of taking at face value that you are proficient in the like aerobic time domains and assuming that you're reasonably good at the movements that are themselves. The video is helpful, but like, hey, let's talk about like exactly how, like, dissect how you approach this workout and why it seemed to kill you.
You are explaining the context of the creation of this workout.
Right. I remember that.
I really keep a close eye on patterns from our community. And if I create a Misfit leaderboard and I sort of sort by that and I see outliers, especially related to something like this what this is, this style of workout, was that workout 3 rounds, 50 and 50, the burpee box jump over? Yeah. Like, if we see that discrepancy and we know that you have the capacity, then we got to talk about athlete IQ. And Jessie Smith was one of my testers for this, and she wrote back, "What is wrong with you?" And I said, "They don't know how to pace, Jessie. We must teach them." And honestly, when something is an athlete IQ test for more and more and more athletes, that means it's kind of a tough nut to crack. It's like not solely on the athlete. This kind of thing is really fucking hard to pace, but you have to figure it out if you want to reach your goals. So that's part of it. And there are some people who are just so damn fit or have the right mindset that they can kind of come back to the mean anyways, where they're like, if they go a little bit too hard, they can maybe sense the warning signs early enough to back off and then create a little bit of a better average. But for most of us, not being professionals, you really got to look at how long did it take you to do 0 through 10, 11 through 20, 21 through 30. You got to get that granular and be like, my rep speed changed by 2 seconds or 3 seconds per rep. And that doesn't seem like much, but if you did all the variations of burpees fresh that you did while you were fatigued, you would be like, holy shit, I'm all over the place. This is the equivalent of a 135 and then a 150 and then a 202, like that sort of thing. So that to me is a number one. And you theorizing about this and coming up with all of your splits and then not executing on it isn't going to do shit for you. So we're going to talk about the solution here in a little bit, but like, it's not just knowing this thing, right? Like executing on it is a challenge in and of itself, even with all of the information. The second thing that pops into my head that I think honestly is just not a correct statement would be it's not the movements because I'm better at them when there's less of them. If you are strong, this kind of thing resonates with me being a fast twitch athlete. Like I can make it seem like I know that I'm good at a movement if you give me few enough of them or you give me a heavier ball or that sort of thing. That does not mean that I have the capacity to go out there. It's why like the engine program for our affiliate has things like trying to do unbroken Karen with a light ball. Like developing capacity in these things, true capacity, the like, holy shit, that person does Karen unbroken, or every time they, go to do a set of wall balls, it's like robotic. There's a lot to that. It's not just in a specific setting I can excel at those things because you don't get the specific setting. You might have to do a set of 10. You might have to do a set of 150. You might be doing it in a 5-minute time domain, and you might be doing it in a 25 or 30-minute time domain. And everything in between that creates so many combinations that like saying you're good at a movement may or may not be true.
Yeah, I mean, I see that argument more as like just an athlete not quite understanding that like the energy system, like it's like, yeah, this workout's perfect, right? It's like heavy snatch, burpee box jump over at the end of quarterfinals, the other year, where it's a tall box and a squat snatch in a workout that's, less than 10 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes for the fittest. It's like you like saying that you're good at that movement. I should be therefore good at a movement at the same movement in a 25-minute time domain doesn't make sense.
Right.
I understand why an athlete would say that, but like from an energy system perspective, obviously those two things couldn't be further
10,
apart.
12 minutes long, would Tola win that event at the CrossFit Games?
Sure.
Right. Another thing here that is extremely common is people overemphasizing their strengths within a workout. So if you're a really good rower, you can athlete IQ your way out of this workout by deciding before you start my row pace is X. Because there's the idea that Hunter could beat me off of the rower and just be ahead of me and get further in the workout. And that is true in a lot of instances. But there's also the idea that Hunter could row at the exact same pace and leave the rower in a wonderful state, in the kind of state you should be in a 25-minute workout to then go do your double unders, your wall balls, etc. So we find that athletes that have strengths within a certain thing get a little bit too locked in on that and aren't willing to row at 900 cals per hour because it feels easy. But the other movements are the thing that is causing your heart rate to go from, 160 to 180. And if you are getting back on the rower at a 180 and staying in zone 5 there and then trying to continue to iterate as you go through, that's a pretty big problem. Again, there's the athlete IQ element here. And I think, again, for the masses, this style of workout is so fucking challenging to figure out. Dialing in your burpee box jump over pace, like, you really got to know what you're doing. And in a lot of instances, you got to have someone there with you being like, all right, 12 in a minute. We're right on target. We're right where we want to be. But you did 16. You did 15 because they felt smooth.
Because you weren't working out before. Yeah, I mean, that's like a good example.
People love big sets of wall balls, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I mean,
why?
here, I'm going to do a little experiment here so I don't have to do the math, but I got ChatGPT in front of me. I need to row 75 calories on a Concept 2 rowing machine, period. Tell me how long those calories will take if I row at 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, and 1,300 calories per hour. put this in an easy to read table. And like while it's kind of doing this, it's the same like you just explained it with the burpee box jump over, right? You can convince an athlete it's like doing 12 reps in a minute is not hard for most like athletes at the level that we're talking about. Doing 12 reps a minute for a little bit over 4 minutes straight is obviously a little bit different, but like the difference between 12 reps per minute for 4 minutes versus the demand of say 10 reps per minute for 5 minutes, especially over this like super long term, this like long workout, it's like that 1 minute of difference is so easily found later on in the workout, whether it's transitions, whether it's just picking a ball up a little bit sooner, or like just pacing, it's just so easy to find that time. Whereas you come out a little bit too hot, it's effectively impossible to use any of those movements to bring your heart rate back down into a place that you can like actually operate without disrupting taking like, a full fucking minute off or spending a full 2 minutes rowing at 300 calories per hour just to bring your heart rate down a little bit. You're gonna have to run your mouth for a second here. This is
yep.
Fucking
So when we're talking about the solution now, I have good news. Our bitch work bias for phase 2, which gets started here in a few weeks, for anaerobic is CrossFit. So you're going to be doing cube staked, which is kind of the cube test version of Spiders on Mars. And then in open prep and sort of leading into quarterfinals, your aerobic bias will be CrossFit, and you will do Spiders on Mars again, and you will do, 15 and 13 and 10-minute windows of these movements on repeat so that you can figure them out. And it's interesting because typically to get somebody better at something, we go long to short. I find in this instance that short to long works better because it is more about the pacing and the athlete IQ test, that the person needs a more digestible format to then figure out what to do when it's increased. So this is just the kind of thing that the nuance that will be in our phase structure. Actually, when I do it in this order, it works better for people. Why would that be the case? And if there's, logic behind it, we look at it. So we're going to work on this from 90-second windows to 15-minute windows for 18 weeks. And if you take really good notes, and honestly, like I would be psychotic if I was a competitor, and I know that this is partly because of my personality, but I would be psychotic about the data on this stuff. I would want to know my rep speed from 90 seconds to the 15-minute windows. I would want to know what I'm accomplishing across all of that, because it's always mixed with rowing. It's not always all of the movements together, but they're all there to give you enough context that there will not be a test that you do not have context for. It won't be possible. The idea that there would be more than 30 minutes of this stuff in a workout, it's like, I pray for you, because they programmed it for 20 minutes and we're probably not having a similar conversation. And then all the way down to, you'll be doing, say, 7 rounds of the 90 seconds, but all the way down to 90 seconds with huge rest. You will know what you're supposed to do if you iterate from week to week and also iterate from round to round. Like if you've got 3.5 minutes after your 90 seconds, you should be able to figure out whether that was a good idea or not.
To round out the conversation, the difference between a male rowing at 1,000 calories per hour, so most would say like that's a pretty conservative pace, I would argue, up to 1,200 calories per hour, a little bit more of like a someone saying like, sure. I can hang there, is 45 seconds. So across both of those rows, you're talking about only a 1.5 minute difference. And again, that sounds like a lot, and it might be, but in the context of 25 minutes total.
It's only a lot if that's the pace you were supposed to row at, because what would happen in between?
But just think if you're a male listening to this, and women, the equivalent would be somewhere in like the 700 on the slow to like 900 on the upper end of that number. Just think like physically what the difference of those two paces feels like, and what you're physically capable of doing after you get off the rower, having rowed for 4 minutes at 1,000 calories per hour versus 3.5 minutes at 1,200. And it's like the difference there seems a little bit more apparent. So when it comes to these types of workouts, like, again, the rower's easy because you can do the math and the monitor tells you what's going on. You have to know what you kind of just alluded to is like understand what sort of pace. Like you think about it in terms of reps per second. I think I like digesting it more in like reps per minute. That's a little bit more, that's easier to track as like an athlete. But the idea here is like, what is the 1,000 calorie per hour equivalent in burpee box jump over pace? And do you know that? If not, like there's
what is the difference between 900 and 1,000? What is the time difference there?
30 seconds. It would take you 5 minutes to do it at 900 calories per hour. It would take you 4.5 minutes to do it at 1,000. So a 30-second gap.
And to give you guys context, I've written on my little whiteboard while reviewing open and quarterfinals workouts, you rested for 39 seconds, circled it, put an exclamation mark next to it, and sent that photo to the person that I'm reviewing their video for.
Yeah.
Like that, you thinking that that's a long time in that context when you're costing yourself 5 minutes, like
sure,
it really just isn't.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about it like 30 seconds, like, okay, where else can I inject 30 seconds into this workout? Well, it's like if you took twice as many, if in, you're in your head, you're like, I'm going to do 4 sets of 25 on these wall balls and I'll rest for 5-10 seconds in between. And it's like, well, if you just do 10 sets of 10 and rest for half as long, like you just found those 30 seconds real fucking easy.
Yeah, we had someone qualify for semifinals 2 years ago and they messaged us and they were like, I had no business being where I was on the leaderboard in that 3 rounds of 50 and 50, but it's like my kryptonite and I just did 10s and I smoked people who were way better at those movements than me.
Yeah, we still have the old Max Bragg. He's just like, yeah, I do Karen in sets of 10 and it still took me 4 minutes. It's like, what? Like that doesn't even make any sense. It's like, yeah, well, if the ball's on the ground for like less than 2 seconds, like it doesn't
I beat someone
matter.
to 90 in 9 sets of 10 and they went unbroken. I'm just going to throw that out there.
That's crazy, actually.
All right. What do you tell your high-level athletes who are always at the top of the leaderboard to keep them pushing the intensity? I know most are self-motivated and thrive with ideas of constantly getting better.
If you got to ask, you can't afford it. Might be
he answered the question.
Yeah,
after
I was
he
gonna
asked
say the differences in the answers in the question, my friend. That is largely what differentiates, right, the best from the wannabes, right? It's like they don't necessarily need that external motivation. That's not, they don't need zero, but like the motivation is like, no, I just have this goal and I know what is required of me to obtain it, and like I just need to do it. There's no like, if I either of us have to convince an athlete to compete at like that, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, come on, Kelly, like I believe in you. I know you can be a CrossFit Games athlete. Like what does she reply with? Okay, all right, I'll do it. Fine, coach. And then takes top 10 at the Masters CrossFit Games? Or is it like, it's like, I know what I need to do. Yep. Okay. Sorry, coach. I've been in a little bit of a funk, whatever, like knock me out of it. Hey, athlete, like wake up. You're a top 10 CrossFit Games athlete. Let's giddy up. Like, okay, got it. Like that's the difference.
Yeah. One element to high athlete IQ is having a very clear picture of like what you need to get better at. And I actually have known some pretty damn good athletes that don't know. They just think I'm not good enough as a blanket statement. And it's like, actually, you have these 2 gaping holes. And if we close those up, you would be like, holy shit, what would happen? Like you would not believe how good you could be. But because those things are commonly programmed or that energy system is required, then they don't necessarily see it that way. That is when they like, and this, I don't know if this is a thing anywhere anymore. Like this was such a part of CrossFit and such a part of having a quote unquote training camp back in the day. Like the leaderboard was everything back in the day at so many gyms. And then the leaderboard of the comments section, like athletes were like really good athletes were basing their self-worth on like whether they won a Metcon on a Tuesday. And so much of that is gone. Like a lot of it is gone. And I don't know, for me as a remote coach, it's probably because I'm like, I want you to run so fucking hard to open this workout to see what it's like to be in zone 5 for rope climbs, that they're like, I would never do that like in a competition, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like maybe part of it is not knowing what you're supposed to be working on from a macro perspective. What do I need to get better at? Because if I don't get better at these things, it's not going to matter how competitive I am. And then on a micro, on a day-to-day, are you reading the stimulus of the workout and doing your part as the athlete to create that stimulus? Because like a lot of cardio workouts are gas the second you don't choose the row pace that allows you to go unbroken in quick transitions, right? And like a lot of muscle endurance workouts become closer to cardio or gas if you just chop everything up, like you're gamifying the workout, that sort of thing. So I would say I see this at a high level, but we get rid of it by talking about what you need to improve on overall and in a given workout.
Yeah, I was going to say, to like make my answer a little bit more useful for the masses, is that like, so I like, we've talked a little bit about like the training progression that somebody needs to go on. Like a hatchet athlete needs to do a lot of CrossFit, right? An elite games athlete needs to spend a lot of their time managing like fatigue and intensity so that they can peak for their season, which might mean that their like early off season contains a little bit less CrossFit and like progressively adds more of it toward the end. There's more weakness work and stuff like that. But for the like everyday person, the regular gym goer to like the quarterfinals level athlete, like you guys just we need to do CrossFit. When it comes to like thinking about the comparisons and the leaderboard stuff, it's like, again, that high level games athlete is so unconcerned, or just a high level athlete, whatever it is not very concerned about where their like day-to-day placing is on a given leaderboard because of what you said, right? They're trying to focus on maybe a specific component of a workout. Maybe they have a different workout because that's what their remote coach asked them to do. So comparing, they don't have somebody to compare it to. And also like that athlete also understands like, hey, just, it's like when you're looking at a score on the leaderboard, all you're seeing is numbers. You have no context for what that athlete did before, what that athlete needs to do after. When, is this athlete on their third of 3 training days in a row? Are they completely fresh and ready to roll? Did they really get after this workout? Did they not? Like there are way too many variables to just glue your, again, like self-worth to that single score on the board. And the higher level athlete you become, the more you tend to realize that. And it's like, okay, this doesn't really matter until the open, until quarters, until semifinals, until like we're all competing together. It's all like, head to head. And like, that's when the athletes like come out and it's like, okay, now I need to get the best score, the best time possible. But for the rest of the year, like, there's not a whole lot of helping the high-level athletes stay motivated, like, because they understand kind of like the life cycle of like the cycle of the season, so to speak. It's like you can't care about a score on a whiteboard in September. It's like it's useless.
And there's I'm trying to think of like the kind of notes that I get from an athlete based on a workout. Because if it's not the actual score, it's like, I think we need to incorporate more front squats in a workout because those surprised me, that sort of thing. I couldn't believe I was able to hold on for that set of toes to bar. That's kind of new information. So they've got these little workouts within a workout where they're thinking about movement combinations, time domains, things of that nature. So I think that would be an important thing. The only devil's advocate that I'll throw out there related to this question is just when you train so much alone and don't have context for intensity because you've gotten to a point where this is hard equals intensity, and spoiler, it's always hard. Even when you don't go that hard, it's kind of hard. You know what I mean? Like a 7 RPE in a Metcon sucks, because it's just the nature of what we do. So that would be when you need to make sure that you're not always in a big fish, little pond situation. You go train with other people to kind of see where you're at, to push yourself, that sort of thing. Some people benefit from that more often. Some people benefit from that just sort of in the, 3 or 4 training camps a year, that sort of deal. But that would be my only devil's advocate there. This next question is just one of those ones that I almost want to just ask because it gives people context for the idea that like everyone goes through this type of thing. And it really boils down to Like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? What am I gaining from this huge time and investment in money? How do I realize, like, whether I am going to win the CrossFit Games or whatever? And then there's some pieces in there of, at the end of the day, isn't the goal of competing just to be the winner? So first and foremost, there's a shared suffering situation here. Like, people are going to question this, not just because it's really hard and one person gets to win the CrossFit Games, but also because, like, you are diminishing your resources like almost no other human on earth if you have a full-time job or kids or whatever, and you're training for competitive CrossFit. Like, you questioning things on a somewhat regular basis might just happen because you're kicking your own ass intentionally over and over, and you don't have the resources again to be like, yay, this is fun, this is great, that sort of thing. So I'll throw that out there and let you respond to that. But I do want to pick up on one part of it that stuck out to me, which was, it may be helpful to hear the experiences of others and how they handled the situation, and potentially the undeniable truth that they just won't be the winner. I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that the goal of competing? I look at that as an incredibly reductionist view of what we're doing here. And no one would, you know what I mean? It would be Jason Hopper or Tia. They would be the only people that show up at the games. And they're like, yay, we won, right? Like, the struggle and the what you learn about yourself between the lines. There is way more going on. That is the idea of, like, the poster is reading, the only thing that matters is the destination. The journey sucks. Like that's probably not going to be the motivational poster, right? And again, I have reached 5+ professional and honestly personal and sports mountaintops in my life, and they're not what you think they are. Like, I promise that. So that's when you really learn. You almost have to win to learn that the way that you spend your days in your life is significantly more important than one day, like that sort of thing. So, like, I don't know, what your opinion is. I mean, I can probably guess what your opinion is on these questions, but, like, that part of it was the only thing that stuck out to me. That was like, I think we got to reevaluate this portion.
Yeah, I'll give, I mean, maybe an anecdote. So, I mean, to your point, what you just said is an important one, right? It's like, the immediate one that comes to mind is the somewhat famous interview that Scotty Scheffler did after he won, I don't remember which major it was this year, but he basically, like, alluded to the idea, like, what am I doing? Like, what's the point of this? It's like, you win, you celebrate for 5 minutes, and then, like, the family's like, hey, where are we going to dinner? Got to get the kid in the car. Like, we fucking forgot the stroller at home. It's like you won, but, like, life goes on, and almost, like, abruptly and immediately so, right? So, like, the idea that the only destination is to win is kind of like when the people who are at the top, and you just said it too, like, who are at the top say that being at the top, like, you're there for a short period, and then it doesn't fucking matter because I got to go play golf 4 days later again, and I'm back in the mix with everybody. Understanding, like, why you're, what benefit is this hobby to me? So, and the personal anecdote that I have, I think having picked up golf has actually given me a slightly renewed sense of why people compete in CrossFit. And I think there's a couple of big important distinctions as to why, like, I personally, like, place value over one versus the other. But, like, this idea that, like, so for me, golf serves as a competitive outlet, as somebody who competed in sports, predominantly hockey, for about 20 years, and then that was gone, right? There's a void there. That void was somewhat shortly filled by CrossFit for a little while. And, like, for me personally, the timing worked out exceptionally well that regionals was like, I qualify for regionals when it was like, hey, you're a pretty good athlete, you figured out most of these movements, good job, like, regionals, there you go, and like, that was sick and that was cool. But at the end of the day, it's like it filled that competitive void for me. But, like, I'm not gonna go to the PGA Tour. What do you mean by win?
Sure.
Like, beat Scotty Scheffler? Like, because I ain't gonna do that. Like, is it win the match that I've got going against my buddy on Tuesday afternoon for 9 holes? Okay, now I can play. Now I can get behind that, right? And, like, what the value that it provides for me is it provides that competitive outlet. it's physical. It's both physically and mentally demanding, more so the mental side of things, but it's something that, like in CrossFit, like there's always something small to improve on. It fills a lot of voids for me, but I have no illusions that I'm going to be the bet. Like, again, what does it mean to be the best at or to win? We're talking like number one in the world, because there ain't that many of them, and it's not you, respectfully. So it's like figuring out what value does that thing add to your life, because I spend a whole shitload of time and more money than I'd like to admit on like this hobby that is ultimately going to only going to serve me like personally. And, it provides social opportunities and stuff like that. There are kind of ancillary benefits to this hobby. But at the end of the day, like the hobby itself isn't going to bring me any future, like golfing itself, like going out and talking to people. Sure. Like you get connections and stuff like that, but the point is like you have to figure out what this hobby is doing for you. So having picked it up kind of reminds me, it's like, well, maybe CrossFit is just that thing for somebody else who comes into the gym. They get bit by they drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak, and they really want to get better at it. I think where the distinction for me between a hobby like golf, like a more traditional sport or a game or something like that, there's a big difference, because a CrossFitter, like, I want to go get better at golf, like I can go chip and putt or go to the driving range, and that's not necessarily demanding, that's not beating myself up physically. A CrossFitter who's like, man, I really like CrossFit, it's a hobby, I'm going to go to the gym and hit a 5x5 back squat. It's like that has like ramifications. Like it's like you are draining significant amount of energy from a gas tank. If you don't move exceptionally well, like you are compounding poor movement patterns that ultimately, like your body's only got like so much mileage on it from a physical beatdown perspective. And so for me, that's where I struggle a little bit as a coach, where I see an athlete who really likes this whole CrossFit thing and wants to get better at it. What I see as a coach is like, that person's not moving very well. Like they might get hurt. It's like, what is this doing for you? Because like, are you just half-assing your way through another Metcon just because you like breathing hard? It's like, that's one thing, but you're also like all of the literal repetitions that you're doing is putting wear and tear on your physical being that is not maybe necessarily like providing any benefit to you other than that immediate feeling of like, I feel better, like my stress levels are down and whatever, and maybe that trade-off is worth it. But I think for me, that's like the distinction between adopting a like quote more traditional hobby versus the hobby of exercise. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think there's an important distinction between like those two possibilities. But the super long answer is like you have to know what this competitive thing, what does it mean to win, quote unquote? Is that your actual goal? And what value is doing additional training? What value is exercise bringing to your life that can't be either found elsewhere or like is so worth doing that you just have to identify maybe a better goal than like to quote win?
Well, we're all living proof that winning isn't the thing. None of us are the winners.
Yeah. Yeah.
So winning isn't the thing. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret. You sickos are just looking for an excuse to continue improving yourself. Like you wouldn't just do the like, I'm going to play a 9-hole match with my friend. Like that wouldn't be the only thing. You would like an excuse to play some more golf, right? You like going and playing golf. Clearly that's a thing. But the way that our minds work, the way that we're wired evolutionarily, there's this thing of like always improving and evolving and moving forward. So the trick that you can play on yourself to make it seem like your time is being spent is worthwhile is, oh, there's a tournament, there's there's the open, there's the local thing or whatever. But in reality, if you just remove a couple days of the year, you are showing up to either golf, which is probably more mental anguish than physical, or you are showing up to put yourself through the fucking ringer. And like whether people notice it or not, there is a reason, right? Like again, you're going to be able to deal with stress better. You're going to live longer. Like there are so many benefits from a lot of these things that we're talking about that like it makes sense that you would want to keep doing them. But this like obsession with the peak of your mountaintop, I think honestly is just an excuse to work around the idea that you might be in pursuit of something that's like, I don't know, not entirely necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, is it necessary for you to obtain a 500-pound back squat? Like, no, like not
But
necessary.
if it keeps you back squatting
But
and
if it keeps you, yeah, exactly.
muscle, bone density, confidence, testosterone, like the things that
Yeah,
it
and
can
I
do for
think
you,
it's-
that is actually the point.
Yeah, I think it's acceptable. But I mean, but you're not thinking about, but the athlete's not, someone's not thinking those things, right? It's like, well, I just feel
We're not
better.
wired
I
that
know,
way.
I inherently know that this is like good for me, and it just happens to be the case that I really like it. And that's fine. Like that, it's just like, well, I do it because I like it.
Yeah.
And you can investigate further, like, well,
Sure.
what about it do you like? And like, we can get all sorts of woo-saw up in here, but like, yeah, it comes down to like identifying one of their like side questions is this hobby of mine helpful and healthy for me? It's like, well, like again, to my point, I think of it like, okay, if you do, you just train all day, I think about it as like a beat down on your physical
If you think
body.
more is
But
better, you're confused. And you
yeah,
need to-
for sure. But it's like, but then the other side of the coin is like, well, if you didn't have those things, like what would you fill your time with? And it's like, is the other things that you would fill your time with, are those bad? It's like, well, then
Video games and Cheetos.
maybe I'll take
every
go
other
ahead, do some
American.
rowing intervals. Like, sounds like that's better than the alternative. And we have members who are like that at the gym, right? It's like, if it's the difference between coming in and doing a workout or going out and drinking or, doing drugs or something or getting back on the sauce, whatever it is, thinking about some of our sober members who have worked super hard to maintain that. It's like, motherfucker, like you do all the rowing intervals you want. Like, go for it. Like,
Fuck
love
your
it.
HRV.
Yeah,
Stay
yeah.
alive.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Being a little tired tomorrow is better than being dead. So,
Yep. Agreed.
yeah, it just what does it do for you?
Yeah. And listen, like I'll circle back to the beginning just to put a period on it. These are very normal things.
Yeah.
And I can say that from a personal level too. I had existential dread when I was like 5. So like the whole like, why are we here? What's going on? And then like as often as you can leaning into like the day-to-day is the thing. Optimize your day-to-day, the like real boring shit, just the stuff that you do in your life, because that ends up being the whole fucking thing. All right, last one is a very specific question, but there is actual context to this, which is fun for us, kind of a proof of concept. So how would you expand training for someone that is following Misfit affiliate and is committed to group class, but wanted to tack on even more than the competitor extra? So to give context, you show up at the gym and you have a Metcon in class. Your gym follows Misfit affiliate. There's something called the competitor extra that is essentially like a built-in like extra piece that's either strength, skill, or conditioning or accessory that makes a well-rounded program for someone who wants to compete, again, whether it's just kind of local throwdown sort of thing or all the way up to the Masters CrossFit Games. And you basically just want to stay in class. You want to get the benefit of the community and of the intensity and of the coaching and the camaraderie and all of that. And we've had, in the last 2 years, 2 people qualify for the Masters CrossFit Games following this program and doing the competitor extra, which is really cool proof of concept and kind of tells you a little bit about more is not better, better is better. And maybe if you're at a good gym and you're being coached and you've got the right people around you, that you can get a lot out of less. So here's what I'll say. This very specifically is some form typically of a remote coaching type situation. We are open to hybrid remote coaching situations where because remote coaching is, if you sign up for a year, it's $350 a month. If you sign up for 6 months, it's $375 a month. If you sign up for 1 month, you're a bozo, because we priced that so terribly to deter you from doing so, because it usually wastes the coach's time. So this would be a situation where it's like, I want to add a 3rd or 4th row to the spreadsheet. It is possible for us to charge kind of an in-between amount for something like that. But if I was going to say, how could someone get better in doing one more piece here, I would say we should write it. I don't want to be like a dick about it, but like what you could do is take the entire program and add a row and figure out what's missing and how to personalize and all of that good stuff. I know some people who are pretty good at that I think have a little bit more context. So this is a very specific thing, but an interesting question. Not sure what your opinion is on it, Hunter.
I mean, it seems like, do we know this person? Is this Jesse? Jesse asked this?
Jesse did not ask this.
Okay.
Do you know the gym that this came from?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the easy answer, or like, well, I don't even know if this is the easy answer. One answer is what you just said. So for the most part, it's like the class programming is either like a lifting only day, which means the competitor extra is probably going to be some sort of conditioning. If it's a conditioning only day, if it's yesterday when we did terrible C2 bike intervals, the lifting piece was a back squat. Nice. Everybody loved that. Back squat, which means like, so you've got like basically the competitor extra fills in something that was missing from class. You add, like Drew said, a third piece and you say like, okay, the class was the lift, the competitor extra was conditioning. Third thing is skill. I think thinking about things in those three categories is helpful. Yep. Lift, conditioning, skill. Whatever thing wasn't hit in the class, the competitor extra, and now your personalized piece, like lift, conditioning, now it's skill. You did conditioning and skill. Great. Now you need to lift. So it's like fill in the void of those three things.
And if all three are there, I do accessory. So it's not, it's
sure
straightforward in that regard.
There's Thursday has the zone 2 stuff.
Yep.
So there's obviously that's a good place to start, usually where I direct like an affiliate athlete. But beyond that, what you're asking for is like another like the in-between option is like, okay, I'm a competitor. I do affiliate program. I do the competitor extra. I'm top of the leaderboard every day. I still want to be competitive. Like, the hatchet program is that next thing.
Right.
This person, It seems like they're asking for something even further in between those two things, which doesn't exist as a product. It exists in the explanations that you and I just gave for somebody to do.
Right. Yeah.
But
the way that it has existed is what Jesse did.
Yeah.
So basically it's like, oops, I qualified for the CrossFit Games. What do I do now? And it's like, probably need a little bit more volume, but like if you're going to personalize a program, you should give those reins to someone who knows how to personalize a program. So the version that Hunter is referencing that I did a little bit as well, I think would only work in a group setting. I think that would, if we're going to be generic about it, it would be like, we got this group of 5 that come in at noon. Like, I think a third or fourth piece would be fine in that context. But if you are an individual, the idea that you're not personalizing in this scenario is kind of crazy, right? Because like the skill rotation, we could go X number of weeks without doing a muscle up, and that's totally fine in the context. And then you're like, well, not in my context. I suck at them and I need to be good at them. Like, so we need to work on those weekly, like that kind of thing. So I think that kind of answers that question, and I would tip my cap to anybody who's committed to like staying within their affiliate. You know what I mean? Even if they are like a high level athlete, I think that's really cool. But if you are looking for a product that doesn't exist, you typically have to kind of pay a premium for it to make it exist.
Yeah. And also, like, if I knew this person, I mean, you could tell me after, but like expand
training. This question came from Roots, but they didn't say who the person was, and they actually have a lot of people who compete that follow the program. So I don't know if they are asking for an individual or if they're asking for like, you got a bunch of kids from CU Boulder who like love class but also want to.
I mean, I think there's one other like category of athlete that I'm thinking of, because we have plenty of athletes who do take class, maybe then do the competitor extra after class, and if you gave them another piece, they would do it. I would also look at a large number of those people and say, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this additional training piece? Like, is this a legitimate competitive aspiration, or are we at this point just exercising because you have the time versus like, what are we actually getting out of this piece? Is this athlete, are you an athlete who is consistently at the top of their leaderboard doing the workouts as prescribed? Like, if not, then the question is like, well, how do we get your intensity high, your fitness up?
Yeah.
And, then we can talk, kind of the earn your volume conversation happens here.
And I normally wouldn't give this context, but yesterday is an example of me maybe letting some people know that they don't need to do that piece. So yesterday at our gym, we had a scenario that would be any given Tuesday for a real competitor, like a high level competitor, where they have to do machine intervals and a lift where they're using the same muscle group. Like that's extremely common. But when your weekly volume of C2 biking is literally the exact meters that you just did, you're not going to be able to recover from that and go do heavy back squats. So like sometimes it's like, hey, this is literally for, hence the name, competitor extra. There's a handful of people at our gym that can push themselves pretty hard on a bike and then rest 10 to 15 minutes and go back squat. And that's great. Good for them. And then there's the rest of us, right? Like I can't even fucking fathom. I don't want to do air squats after that workout.
Yeah,
right?
That's funny because I heard that conversation in, what was yesterday? Monday, I guess. Yeah, it must have been, I guess it was 3:30. I heard it in two separate classes. People preemptively planning to back squat after warming up, but before doing C2 bike intervals. And I abstained, but in my head, I'm like, motherfucker, if you can back squat heavy after this, I'm going to make you do this shit again, because there is no world in which you should be able to recover and do the competitor extra back squat session before my next class starts.
3 people said they were going to do it and 1 person did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were reasonably qualified to do
exactly.
so.
Yes. Yeah.
And everybody else was like, I don't think they finished the first 1,800. I don't think I could back squat after this. I'm like, motherfucker, I knew you couldn't. I'm so glad that you are going hard enough that you are making it yourself incapable of squatting. But that's funny. I heard that 2 separate conversations.
I mean, that was the death. Honestly, that concept was in a lot of ways not like part of was just the convenience factor in making the gym better for the members, but where the hatchet class disappeared. Like the culture at our gym is you hand me a Metcon and I'm going to torch myself with it, right? Yeah. I'm going to go really hard like 3 times a week and everything's going to be fucking hunky dory. You want me to strict press right now? You insane? I don't even know if I can put my arms over my head, right? Yeah. Like that kind of thing. So it's like, that's one way to audit this stuff, right? Like if you're going to do the competitor extra and it says 80% and you're at 40%, the writing should probably be on the wall. I don't know that we can have final thoughts. Quarterfinals, hooray, it's back. I'm glad they listened. I'm glad masters get an opportunity to compete in person. We'll see what that actually looks like. I think that'll be pretty cool.
I want to see some flow charts for the qualification process.
Yeah, I'm going to get some yarn and some tacks and really fucking lay it out. And it's cube staked and spiders on Mars. We are going to haze the shit. Listen, if you're not going to fucking learn how to pace, we're going to force you to learn how to pace, or at least not have fun while not learning how to pace.
Until morale improves.
Yep. Did we do it?
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Hit the link in bio on our Instagram at Misfit Athletics to get signed up for any of our individual programs on Fitter or Strivey. We do not have free trials going right now, but if you DM us, I will email you a copy of any of the programs that you want to take a peek at. That includes our affiliate programming, which you can get by going to teammisfit.com, clicking on the sign up now button, and getting a 2-week free trial at Push, Press, Stream Fit, or SugarWOD. We'll see you next week.
Misfits!
All right, you ragtag bunch of misfits.
You're a scrappy little misfit, just like me.
Biggest bunch of misfits I ever set eyes on.